I would like to introduce our 3 panelists that we have tonight, and my plan is for each of them to give a short presentation, and then we will take questions. And those of you who are in my class know, what do I expect? Some questions. So we need to pay attention and be thinking about, they have some amazing information, really interesting, and I don't want to be the only one who's really keyed in tonight. So, I would like to introduce Mr. David Rio, who is a TV account executive with Univision Communications. Mr. Rio works with the local Univision and Telefutura stations in Houston, with the responsibility for working with local and regional clients and advertising agencies to create media and marketing approaches to increase sales, developing business partnerships with new clients, as well as selling and servicing existing accounts. Prior to joining Univision, Mr. Rio worked in an executive level position in marketing, sales, and advertising at several Fortune 50 companies, including Frito-Lay, Procter & Gamble, and ARA Services. He has a BA from Rutgers University, as well as an MBA in marketing from Cornell's Johnson Business School, and an MBA in International Financial Management from a European university. And Mr. Rio is married with 6 children, which validates you right there. And enjoys farming and do-it-yourself projects, which I don't know how you have time for with 6 children. So, thank you for joining us, Mr. Rio. Next we have Mrs. Jill Landis. Mrs. Landis is experienced in multi-store retail operations and buying. As a graduate of Michigan State University, Mrs. Landis began her retail career in St. Louis with Famous Bar, where she was promoted to her first buying position. She was recruited by Foley's, and they convinced her to move to Texas to buy for their organization, where she continued to shop domestic and foreign markets. As her career developed, she moved into store management. As a store manager, she has managed as many as 250 people, and I think this is a $50 million, transforming several underperforming stores into top producers for both Foley's and Macy's. Ms. Landis' first district management position was with Bridesmart, a privately owned bridal specialty store. While at Bridesmart, she also served as the bridal buyer, working with key manufacturers in the U.S. and traveling overseas to help develop a private label program. Ms. Landis returned to district management position in 2004 with Alfred Angelo Bridal, and has recently been a district manager for Easy Core with profit and loss responsibility for 12 locations. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
And Mr. John Honeywell joined Academy Sports and Outdoors in October 2009 and currently serves as the Senior Director Brand Marketing, which includes brand management, campaign development, customer research, media planning, and production. Mr. Honeywell is a seasoned marketing veteran who has spent the last 12 years developing innovative marketing strategies for retail. Prior to joining Academy Sports and Outdoors, he spent 5 years at Models, do I say that right?
You got it.
Sporting Goods, where he established grassroots marketing initiatives.
That's a new brand.
Drove incremental revenue for vendor partnerships and managed media agency relationships. He began his career with the National Football League in New York. From 1999 to 2004, Mr. Honeywell drove the NFL's retail partnerships and events across all 32 teams. He is a graduate of Syracuse University and received a master's degree from New York University. Mr. Honeywell is married and expecting his first child in 2012 And of course, he is an avid sports fan. And we will let you talk to Mr. Rio about those 6 kids. But it is.
I want more, but she should know. Good story.
That's a different class. But we are so glad to have all 3 of you here. And why don't we start with Mr. Honeywell?
Sure.
And I'm going to leave the lights on because
Perfect.
Mr. Honeywell does not have a PowerPoint, which is not an issue.
So thank you all for having me. I am happy to be here and happy to tell you a little bit about Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm sure if you are all native Texans, you know about Academy and probably have shopped there once or twice. I joined Academy, as we said, about 2 years ago and came down from New York. They brought me down to really take all of the equity that they've built in all of their customers and help to transform the company from something that was mostly transactional based and try and infuse a little bit of personality into the brand. Do any of you know what the tagline is for Academy Sports and Outdoors? Can anybody tell me what it is? Yeah. So that right there sums it all up. The right stuff, low price, every day. So if you know Academy, you know them for convenience. You know them for low prices, good value, good selection. You know, always in stock, which is something that works very well in generating some good loyalty from your customer base. But for those that don't really know Academy very well, it's a bit of a challenge because it's almost you have to reinvent yourself in a way that is an invitation to trial as Academy expands, and it has done so pretty rapidly. I was telling the group before we started is there anybody here that was born in the year 1990? Okay. For all of you that had your hands up, Academy Sports and Outdoors this year will do more the weekend of Black Friday than it did the entire year in 1990. That's how quickly it's grown. Right now it's the 3rd largest sporting goods retailer in the country. Has 140 stores from western Texas all the way to South Carolina and into Florida. It was recently acquired. It was family owned up until July and was recently acquired by private equity group with the hopes of taking all that success and that growth and really fueling it to change it from being a regional sporting goods store from number 3 in the country behind Sports Authority and Dick's and making it the number 1 by bringing it national. It was family owned and the family thought it was time to really the company was getting a little bit too big and that it was best to put it in the hands of a private equity group to be able to fuel that growth for the next 5 years. If you know a little bit about the company, it was recently publicized that it was acquired. It's a $3 billion annual sales company, which is pretty large, and it has a goal of being about a $5 billion company by 2015. So to double pretty much in growth within 4 years is pretty substantial. So like I said, they brought me down. It was a company that up until probably about 3 or 4 years ago didn't really even have a traditional marketing department. It was all advertising based through weekly inserts or television that was 15-second TV commercials focused solely on montage and price an item. Not very memorable, nothing that would really stick into your mind as having much of a personality around the brand. So they brought me down from New York, and slowly but surely we've convinced buyer after buyer to let go on the fact that you don't have to scream price all the time to get it through the customer's head, that there's an opportunity here to have an invitation to trial, to infuse some personality into the brand. You know, we have a lot of things that we do as a marketing department. Top line, I can tell you that one of our largest spends is with newspapers, weekly inserts. We do just about one every week. And our second largest spend is through broadcast, both radio and television. And we're slowly changing how we advertise in both those vehicles a little bit as the world becomes a little bit less about picking up the Sunday paper. We're changing along with that, and we're moving towards more digital properties and really trying to increase our customer base through acquisition. And as I was joking with the group earlier, people who know Academy and shop Academy, they're pretty avid, they're pretty loyal, and that's because it's all about price, convenience, and selection. But my job is to retain them and acquire them. So slowly but surely, one day at a time, we're infusing new ways of having that conversation with them. And my job is to really elevate that, drive consistency for the brand, and to drive a little bit more relevancy for the seasonalities of the company. Should we ask questions or pass on to the next moderator?
Well, let me start by asking a couple.
Sure.
So it's my understanding that every retailer has competitors.
Sure.
And you have competitors, and there are some well-known, what I would call hunting, fishing.
You can say them. You can say them.
I don't know that I shop those shops enough to know intelligently, but I would just say Bass Pro
Sure.
and
Gander
Mountain, right?
Yep.
Are in the market. So what's Academy's plan in differentiating themselves from those kinds of businesses?
Well, I think that if you look at, there's three different areas that we look at from a competitive standpoint. One is the mass retailers, which is Walmart, Target, and companies of that nature. The second is Field & Stream, which are the Bass Pros, the Ganders, the Cabela's, some of which aren't in this market, but they are if you go throughout our footprint. And then the last one is traditional sporting goods retailers, which is Hibbett's, Big Five, Sports Authority, Dick's Sporting Goods, and we feel as though we are such a hybrid in the way we operate that we have that one-stop shop appeal, where if you're looking for something Field & Stream and you're novice to, you're not necessarily an expert, then we own that customer. Whereas a Bass Pro or a Cabela's, if somebody's looking for a $4,000 rifle, they're probably not going to come to us, they'll go to them.
Okay.
So I think we can coexist with them fairly easily, and I think that the same case you can speak to with Dick's Sporting Goods. We right now, as we speak, we're in the midst of a hot market situation. We call it hot market whenever one of our sports properties goes into championship mode. So I spent my entire day today trying to figure out ways to outmarket Dick's Sporting Goods in the Dallas marketplace, and that's because of the Texas Rangers.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
So non-sports
Sorry.
And something's happening in Dallas.
The first game of the World Series is tonight, and so when it comes to Dick's Sporting Goods, it's a bit of a different beast. They'll have we have a somewhat of a different customer base, and we do a lot of research around who their customer is and who our customer is, and we do that through a semi-annual program that my team's out, which is called our brand health. So before I started with the company, it was all about just what I like to call sprints. The company was running sprint after sprint after sprint with a weekly campaign, just trying to sell through this widget, this red book. They weren't looking at the long-term ramifications of branding and how we can drive equity with the company. And equity in branding is significant. When the company was sold, I can't get into details, but it was just the brand alone, let alone any physical structure, was valued in the multi-millions of dollars, which speaks to Academy in itself, the way it was run, and that branding is not just about a slogan or a logo. It's about a collective experience that customers have had over time and have become accustomed to. So our customer base, we overlap a little bit with Dick's Sporting Goods, but their customer is a little bit more around that more younger, almost I would say single demo, where ours is skews slightly older. Not quite as affluent, but also is more family centric. So if you think of Dick's Sporting Goods, you're more apt to think of somebody who is a 23-year-old to 26-year-old professional, somebody who plays in softball or is an avid golfer who might go and pick up his golf clubs there, whereas Academy Sports and Outdoors is probably mom and dad going to get a pair of cleats for little Johnny. So I think we can certainly coexist, and we do so in a lot of our markets. There is slight overlap in who we try and target as a customer. I think that one point of differentiation that we've always leaned on is price, where Dick's Sporting Goods is typically a little bit higher than we are in price, and the customer knows it. So the one thing that I can caveat that with is price rarely is a differentiator in the marketplace. You guys will soon find out as you go on to your career path that you can compete on price for so long because there's always going to be somebody who will open up next to you and become more competitive, or there's Amazon.com might have something that's relatively cheaper, so you can't really build a lot of brand loyalty and brand equity on price. So there has to be something else, and that's what I was brought down to help infuse into the company. It was a little bit more around that conversation we're having with the customer. It's a collective experience, like I said, about in-store, about being relevant during the holidays and being relevant towards Father's Day and certain key events like that. But so to answer your question, I think we can easily coexist, but we definitely right now differentiate ourselves on price, and we're actually going through the exercise right now of a brand architecture study, which will have both internal and customer-facing components, and that brand architecture study will help us drive a better understanding around the levers we can pull with our customer to help gain more loyalty with them. I like to call it the bookends, because a lot of people at Academy have been with the company for 20 years and haven't really had a fundamental understanding of what it really is to market. They're just advertising, like I said, widgets. So my job is to basically help them understand and establish the bookends around what we can do with our brand, so that we're not having a certain type of font over here or a certain type of tone in the conversation we're having with our customer over there, so that there's driving consistency and relevancy with our customer base.
Okay. And one last question. Did I see a campaign with Dana Patrick?
Danica Patrick, yes, you did.
And you were announcing online.
Yes.
So I can shop Academy.
Fresh to the game. We joined the 21st century this year. Yeah, it's funny because Academy had attempted to go with an online platform. It was a brochure site. A brochure site is a website that doesn't sell anything. So we developed our e-commerce platform and launched it in June. It was an arduous process to start something from the ground up. And what many people don't know is we are, I believe we're the only retailer, sporting goods retailer, that actually owns and operates their own website. If you look at Dick's Sporting Goods, Sports Authority, Model Sporting Goods, where I came from, they're all owned by the same company, a company called GSI, Global Sports. So we went through the path of saying we don't want anybody else to control our brand. We want to do it ourselves. And it took us about 3 years to go through that process. So we did. We launched a campaign with Danica Patrick, and she was the spokesperson for us, and had some very good success. There were some challenges along the way. Anytime you open up a new type of operation within your organization, I mean, there's some hiccups along the way, but we're up and running smoothly. She's a spokesperson of ours, and you're going to see her a lot more regularly. Along with, we signed another spokesperson as well, Mr. Emmett Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. So
that's a name we do recognize.
Yeah, we just finished wrapping up our holiday store director meeting out in Nashville. I just flew back Monday, and I had a chance to show 140 of our store directors our holiday TV commercials, which you'll see in the coming weeks. And it's a hybrid between those price and item commercials that you've seen historically from Academy, but has some fun interaction between Emmett and Danica, and we're using them both for our holiday campaign. Not quite where I feel like we can fully go as an organization, but we're slowly evolving and getting there.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take questions from the group later. but we're going to move on to Jolandis to talk about, and we have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to turn some lights off.
It's very short.
It is, but
Just to get you to know a little bit about, Shannon was kind enough to share with me and some of the teachings that and the learnings that hopefully you'll have this semester. And so I did a little bit of a quick PowerPoint around 4 main topics, one of which was what's the target market. Again, I'm representing Alfred Angelo Bridal, but Alfred Angelo has right now only 3 stores in the Houston market, but they have about 75 nationally, coast to coast. They are a wholesaler as well as a retailer. And I understand F9, yeah, good. F5. These are, you can go to the next.
okay, got it.
The target market. Obviously, it's about females because it's bridal, okay, for the most part. And Alfred Angelo works with customers that are from size 0 to size 30W, which is a pretty big, no pun intended, span, okay? And that's pretty amazing because one of the major frustrations that a lot of people in the United States have had is that so much of who watches Project One Runway? Does anybody in here? Thank you very much. So many of the gowns and things that you see and that are available or had been available previously in stores have been size 4s and 2s that are modeling them, and what's in the stores are usually size 8. So it's really, really there's a huge percentage. I'm going to say 35% of the public is over size 16 of the marrying public, the age. And the age that we're looking at is anywhere between 18 and infinity, because you know we handle any bride, any age, any number of weddings. So it's a really interesting and fun experience. So that's a major thing. And what makes Alfred Angelo different from their #1 competitor, which would be David's Bridal, is they are more interested in servicing brides that want their own gown, that want to order their own gown and be special. I don't know how much experience you guys have had, but typically David's Bridal is come in, buy it off the rack. They're like the gallery furniture of bridal, you know, come in, take it off the rack and get it home, you know, and Alfred Angelo wants to build a relationship with you all and wants to serve all of your needs, make it convenient, make the day special, as opposed to a one-time visit and, you know, blow and go kind of thing. So it's very focused on special orders. They're very focused on full service, meaning that they want the bride to be not only customer service, and customer service is the whole thing. It's a smaller business. It's not a national, you know, billions of dollar, though the industry is billions of dollars. The bridal industries and the bridal stores by themselves are much smaller usually in volume. You know, they're $2.5–3 million a piece in the stores for volume, which is a lot when you're special ordering everything that's going to go out the door rather than selling it right off the rack and having it available for you. So it's a big business. So it's a totally different approach because their marketing is primarily word of mouth. Of course, they are involved, and I'm sorry, I skipped around. They're interested in, our customers that they're focusing on are interested in value, selection, and style. It's not all about the price. It's more about convenience, the experience, living the dream. And for most of the females in the audience understand what I'm saying. They're living the dream, okay? Marketing techniques that Alfred Angelo uses is really everything is around selling the dream, because it's an event that women wait for, think about, dream about in their spare time. It is a major part of their psyche. So the most effective ways for them to market today is the internet. And I think you're going to give us more information about the internet. The internet, you know, if you were engaged and were a bride, what would you go to? Where would your first stop be?
Knot.com.
There you go. There you go. The not.com, absolutely. That is absolutely a place you go. So the internet would have bridal sites on it for manufacturers with brand manufacturers. The Knot's there, all the different bridal magazines you can either buy at the on the counters, or you can go online and shop. And there's really no need to purchase any of this stuff anymore. So the internet's very important. They're also important. The internet uses all of their own sites. Each of the bridal companies use their own sites to sell their product vis-a-vis Alfred Angelo's giving away a bridal gown a month. So if you go on their site and register, you could win a bridal gown. Plus it tells you when you buy the bridal gown, there's all kinds of other advantages that your party gets. So that's their attempt to try to keep it all in one place, keep it under control, and allow someone in that company to take charge of your wedding. Alfred Angelo is very, very interested in developing a relationship. We consider the bridal business to be a destination business. That's, a business that somebody is actively going to seek that garment. They need that garment. And we believe everything's a relationship business. And so the people that are the most successful are the people that connect with you. You, if you're going to buy a bridal gown, want to turn that whole event over to someone, basically a bridal planner, without paying them to be a bridal planner that will make sure that everything gets ordered for everybody, everything comes in on time and all that. And that is what's available at Alfred Angelo, okay? And they do special orders on bridesmaids, on everything, 60 colors for everything. It's really important. But the internet's a big thing, magazines are a big thing, special events are a big thing, bridal extravaganzas that happen. They do in-store events to try to promote their products. So that's a way that they market people to. And then in-store marketing is really important too. Things, the signage, the logos, the messages once you get them in the store, clings, window clings, top to bottom, showing, in the windows, because they're when you only have 3 stores in the city, you can't afford to go on television. And it's honestly not the biggest bang for your buck. The internet is. And so, creating the image and drawing people in with clings on the windows is the way that they do it. The way they merchandise is important. Many of you may have already learned the 80-20 rule. That's in retail and everywhere else, which is basically, 20% of your business, 20% of your merchandise does 80% of your business. And so in the store, when you get there, part of the marketing concept is really merchandising related too, where we put the top 10 things on mannequins, because those are the things, if they sell the best, it's because they look the best on most people, or they flatter most bodies. So that would be important. The way they merchandise and size things in the store is important. Those kinds of things are really important. So they look at that, and that's the way that we market as well. And like I said, the promotions like the bridal giveaway to get people to register on their website. So now they have a method because it's hard to identify brides or potential brides in the general market. So registering on websites and stuff and getting that information is really important, and so that's key to them as well. And as well as the fact that they register everyone who walks in their store and gets that information so they can input it and have that information. And hopefully they treat all the bridesmaids fantastically well, so when it's your time, you'll remember that experience and come back and shop with them. But word of mouth, far and away in our business, in the bridal business, is absolutely the #1 way to build your business. Absolutely. And I don't think it's just in the bridal business. And it happens to be a business where what is the traditional customer service term is customer service. Customer service can also mean, can you ring the register efficiently and fast, and can you, depending upon your venue, service means different things. But in the bridal business, it's about relationships and it's about people and understanding the business. Okay. Shannon asked us about,
Yes.
are there any multicultural impacts on this? And we were chatting the other day, and Alfred Angelo is coast to coast here in the United States. They also do business in Australia and in Europe and in Japan. And I was sharing with her that generally speaking, the same products sell across over in Europe as here. There are little tweaks here and there, but generally speaking, it's all the same. There's a very a manufacturer that came to be in Australia who has just taken over the Maggie Sotero took over the United States market with their design and development. So when it's good pretty much across the board. But there are a few cultural things, depending upon the culture, that do tie in and do impact people. And the Asian culture really has a tradition of red. Red is a lucky color. So a lot of Asian brides either have multiple changes of gowns, but red's one of the gowns, or it's important to them to have red in there. You're shaking your head, so so that was a very big influence. But what's interesting about that, and so there's a couple of examples of an Indian or an Asian one, but the next slide is what our domestic people decided to do when they recognized that there was a need, based on feedback and stuff, for red to be in the garment somehow. It actually kicked off a whole trend in the bridal industry, in that Alfred Angelo in particular offers 60 different colors that they can put on dresses. But it began with the cultural need of the Asian people and adding red to their, and everybody loved that. And then we started to get people coming in who were in the military and said, okay, we wanted to wear our dress blue, so we'd like to have a navy blue accent that could tie in. So we, went into the navy blue thing too, and then it went on to, I'm an Aggie and I got to have burgundy, and then and I've got, and all
Orange.
oh, maroon, I'm maroon, my mistake, but all different kinds of things. So it did evolve. This cultural need actually evolved into a whole business trend, and they do over 30% of their business adding color to what is a traditional wedding gown. So that's kind of interesting, I thought. The other thing that happens is there are some religious requirements that are out there that we as retailers have to recognize and play to. One of them, there are some religions, the Latter-day Saints and stuff, they require that's a little extreme. I thought you would think that was but they require that you be very covered up, and your sleeves and what have you. And the fashion in bridal had been strapless, right? Everybody knows that. You're wearing strapless stuff for all your events, right? So it was very, very much a challenge to have those people delivered to them the wedding they wanted and the image that they wanted for their wedding. So that necessitated, on the next slide, the market going out, or Alfred Angelo going out, and they developed separate jackets. So you can still wear a strapless gown, but you can buy a jacket with a long sleeve if somebody needs it. You can buy a cap sleeve that literally just buttons onto your strapless gown, so that you're, or you can do the short sleeve jacket too. You can do solids, you can do plastic, but it was out of a market need and a customer need that was developed. Additionally, recognizing how important it is for the customer to communicate to us and the retailer to come up with solutions. Alfred Angelo is the only bridal company that I know of that if you happen to be shorter, they will cut a gown 6 inches shorter for you, and then you won't lose all the beadwork and won't have to pay to have all that redone. If you happen to be tall, they'll cut it 3 inches taller for you, so you don't have to worry about, I have to wear flats or whatever because the dress is way off the gown. So they'll do that for you. And that again was born out of a need that came through when we were working with our customers and recognizing that there was a need. So there are, you as the consumer, it's not so much that we marketed to it, but we are now, because we recognize that there is a demand for that, and a lot of people took us up on that. And altering the bridal gown takes anywhere from $250 to $350. For $100, they'll make the hem longer with all the beads and shorter. So that's a true value and a benefit to the customer. And so again, that's one of the ways that they would work to develop a relationship. And again, like I said, they want you all to be happy and your bridesmaids to be the same. The long sleeve thing, the other thing that really impacts people though is celebrity weddings too. And I thought that it was wonderful. I just loved, I hope you all did too, the wedding between Kate Middleton. It was fantastic. But what I really, really loved is that she was so traditional. I mean, this could be a more, you know, we have to cover it up a little bit in the front, but that gown is so, so traditional, and it's such a step away from the strapless that has been around for forever. And it was really nice to see a traditional, romantic, beautiful gown come back into play, and that was it. Some of the other trends, just to let you know, that exist around in most of Europe, except for Cape Middleton, nobody has a train. As I traveled overseas and developed gowns and did the designings and things like that, it was really interesting to talk to somebody about adding the train, because in most of Japan, they rent. Nobody buys a gown there. They rent everything. So it's really kind of interesting, the cultural differences in the African culture. Some of the African cultures, the groom goes and buys the gown and gives it to the bride, and that's it, you know. And I know that many of you know that in the Hispanic culture, you know, there are people that sponsor those folks and stuff. So you get people that are involved, and it's usually a really big event kind of thing. So those are some of the differences that are interesting to learn when you're in the business. And so I just told you, I'm showing you an example of how Cape Middleton's wedding influenced design and what's happening going forward, and it could change the trend altogether. So it's kind of interesting. So I was too long, I'm sorry.
We're all did you want to talk a minute about regional impact and destination weddings?
I do. You know, as I mentioned earlier,
I heard a guy go, destination wedding? That was a new term for him, so explain that.
Okay, so a destination wedding is anywhere other than where you are. Okay? And it's interesting. Where do you guys think is the #1 place for weddings in the United States?
Church.
No, well, area. Place. I'm guessing you're right on that one. What? Hawaii? Vegas. Most people do guess Vegas, and it is Disneyland. Disneyland is the #1 place for weddings in the United States. I guess it's the whole princess thing. I don't. It's hard to imagine, but they have cruises. It's a whole industry there, and they are absolutely #1 bridal. Followed by, and then Vegas is right behind. But a destination wedding, this is just to tell you what kinds of things, and she asked if there were regional needs. Even though a lot of weddings happen at Disneyland, people take their gowns there. Vegas, we have stores in Vegas. People still buy their gowns there and stuff. You can transport gowns. So, you know, going to the Caribbean and what have you, destination weddings, again, I was trying to be timely with, you know, Kim Kardashian.
Yes, I thought I recognized, but you know, I'm not a Kardashian girl.
Me either, but it was timely.
Was it a free wedding, or did it really cost her that much money?
I have no idea, but but a destination wedding is basically, and honestly, there's a huge trend toward this. There's a huge movement in the bridal industry where brides, guess what the average age of a bride is? 27 or 28. That's the average age. And it's actually going up, because it's actually going up. But there is a movement where as people are usually out and establishing themselves and very much their own persons when they're getting married, that there's a big movement to go Hawaii, wherever, and get married offshore, I'll call it. And then when they come back, they have big receptions when they come back. But it saves a million bridesmaids and, you know, lots of other kinds of things. And so there's a huge movement to do that, to spare bridesmaids and just go off and get married and have an event they want and take their most important friends with them, and then coming back and having a really big wedding or a big reception here. So anyway, so the destination wedding does take, some people take the same dresses and some take easily packed, easily mobile, you know, gowns and take them out there. The thing is that each wedding is, what's wonderful about the wedding industry is that every wedding is special and different, and it's really very creative. If you're a creative person and you're working with somebody, it's really fun to make their dream come true. So it's a cool business, and we do look for some trends there. So.
Okay. Wow. All right. We could go on about weddings, some of us forever. Okay, so last but absolutely not least is Mr. Rio, and remember, Mr. Rio is with Univision. I have a friend that says I say that wrong because nothing.
Univision.
See? So.
I've been there 11 years, and I know 11 words, so I'm doing pretty well. And for me to sit down that long, to me that is awesome. And I hope you guys, I mean, the thing I enjoyed the most was the opportunity to sit and listen to, brand manager, which I had been, in previous lives, and
his daughter just got married last week.
What's that?
Your daughter just got married. He's reliving.
I would have suggested something. You know how it is. But I have 2 presentations, and they'll be available.
Yes.
With Shannon.
Yes.
One's on effectively citizen segmentation, which really gets down into some core stuff, Hispanic versus non-Hispanic with social media, etc. And how to reach that. So, but this one is, I felt kind of following, bicultural, because we do work with Academy, and personally not myself, but I know the individuals do. We could skip this. This is a video presentation. You can actually see it. It's about 4 minutes.
Okay.
But what we'll do is we'll talk about the population growth. Okay. And my comments really are specific to Houston in this case, because if you get to Miami, it's a different approach. In fact, Spanish words in Houston, given that not about 89% of the Hispanics living in Houston are from Mexico. You get to Miami, it's Cuban. You get to New York, it's Puerto Rico, it's El Salvador. You get to Chicago. Here, Hispanics call themselves Hispanics. You get to LA, they call them Latinos. You get to Chicago, they call them Chicanos. So, I mean, there's a lot of differences, and words are different. I came out of the retail trade, and before I got to Stop and Go, we had message boards, and you go in there and you see hot dogs, and you have this and this and this. Well, they decided, well, we're going to go bilingual, and we're going to put up Spanish and English both. And they did it across the country. And different words mean different things. So things like taking it from Houston, and we developed in Houston and then put it in another market, it didn't even make any sense. So all those little nuances are important if you get involved with consumer behavior and you're a marketer or just a research analyst or whatever else. Big differences. I mean, truly big differences. So we'll look at Hispanic purchasing power, language and acculturation. I'll kind of throw this because it's not in this presentation. Nielsen's kind of like the measure of what people watch. And the interesting thing is, even though Hispanics, 90% of them in Houston, really even more, about 94% speak Spanish and English, both, in some manner, shape, or form. It's what they watch. It's the language used at home dictates what they watch on TV. And that's kind of, it's like if I'm bilingual, I can watch anything. I can watch The Simpsons, I can watch American Idol, and I can watch my novellas. So it's a huge advantage, okay? I don't really watch a whole lot of Spanish TV other than sports because I don't really understand what they're saying. So a little bit more difficult.
There's a Laura show that I understand because it's mad people pointing and yelling, and I get that.
Guys, starting October 31st on Friday nights at 10 o'clock, there's going to be the man show in Spanish, okay? It's going to be, the man show that's on English now. It's coming up, okay? So, language and acculturation. In fact, it's called Mad Dogs or something like that, but I don't know why. Univision is the gateway, and that's just a little plug, but we'll go on. Houston Hispanics, 35% within Houston are Hispanic. In reality, there's probably, as it says, 2.2 million in the DMA. There may be another 400,000 to 700,000 that are not registered, undocumented, whatever it may be. Okay, they may have lived here 30 years, but for whatever reason, they're not included in the number. Hispanic growth about 33% since 2000. And really, if you look at Houston and you go 20 years from now, what will the U.S. look like? It will look like Houston. because if the culture's here, the Asian population, about 8% or so, very strong concentrations through the Indian population. African meaning African, and then you have black population about 17%. What's happening is what I would call the Anglo, the white population, non-Hispanic white, is declining. To Houston right now, it's about 37%. So it's the microcosm that's happening here in Houston. 20 years from now, that's what the U.S. will look like. And if you know Spanish, you're lucky, because you will have a job. If you look at 2000, 2011, and 2016, basically how the areas, if you look at Dallas, for example, in Dallas, Hispanic concentrations primarily in the east side. So each city is a little different too. So if you're a retailer and you're actually trying to attract, you will change up your mix. Fiesta, for example, changes up their mix of what they offer. If you go into the store down at the Astrodome area, the old Astrodome, Reliance Stadium, there is an entire section of Indian food. It's amazing. Each store is a little different. So each store will, a good retailer will mix it up. Houston rank, if you look across the country, number 3, and that's it, and also number 4 among all markets. So, and Houston is the 10th largest market overall in the country. 1 in 4 Houston homes are Hispanic. I think the number last time I saw was about 48%. Houston Hispanic population is growing, so it's going to continue to grow. 1 out of every 2 births in Houston were to an Hispanic couple, or called Hispanic. 70% of the kids K through 12 at HISD were Hispanic. So it's mind-boggling. I'm Polish, so I'm a real minor percentage of here. But I have a commonality with Hispanics. I like polkas and I like accordion, so it's true. Absolutely true. More persons per household, more kids. 3.5 versus basically 2.5. And this comes back to, like, for example, Academy. From targeting, and if a retailer's target is families with kids, well, you direct a portion or a percentage or a focus against certain niches, okay? Given that the Hispanics have a lot of kids, it fits in pretty well there. With bridal and, quinceañeras and everything else, there's a tremendous, it's almost like you have two bridal dresses. So, purchasing power, huge. And here's one thing, it's kind of interesting. I work with a lot of retailers. With retailers is cars. When a Hispanic goes into a car dealer, they don't look to try to finance and they don't look for the lowest price.
Right.
It is cash. If they go, okay, I need, in order for you, I can finance this or whatever else, but I need $10,000 down. $10,000 comes down. And it's totally different mindset than say a non-Hispanic. And I'll just kind of classify them in those two categories. A non-Hispanic, they want to finance the entire thing. Spending, it's growing like crazy. And, okay, we can flip to the next one. This kind of gives you just a general feel, and this is Houston, how many dollars are being spent in these different categories. And then it kind of gives you the percentage of the total.
$358 million on laundry and cleaning supplies.
And here's the thing: if you ever buy lavanda, you ever buy that? make sure you really test it at the store first, okay? It's purple, it's like violet, and it's like, wow, okay? You can spell it, okay? So if you put, I'm gonna mop the floor or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It may be around for a while, okay? It's not like Pine Sol.
Okay. Wow, okay.
Okay, so it's know your consumer. Each consumer is different. From aspirational, adaptive, brand seekers, and Hispanics kind of have the best of both worlds. They can acculturate, they can assimilate, but they have their own culture too. So it's kind of like family is very important. It's the core of the whole aspect of their life. This is a video, you can watch that later.
All right.
It's news, music, sports, you name it. It's the interesting thing is we have the World Cup, we have a couple more, Corporal Oro, a couple American, that broadcast on English language stations also. There is a huge amount of crossover that we see from English language speakers, non-Hispanic, because just watching the World Cup broadcast in Spanish, no matter even if you know what they're saying, it's crazy. I mean, it's like the announcers are just, I don't know if anybody's ever done that. We watch them both at the same time. It's very boring. It's like watching a baseball game. Or, it's crazy. I mean, you heard the guys go goal and they go for this guy could probably talk, he has a big lung. Well, that's all I can say.
I can't wait to watch it. When's it on again?
Brazil coming up.
Okay, Brazil's
About another 3 years.
Okay.
Okay, so language is really in July. But basically demographics, culture. Big switch also. If you look at the Woodlands is a huge population shift coming out of Mexico into the Woodlands. I don't know, anybody live in the Woodlands?
Yes.
Okay. Have you noticed anything along those lines? No? Yeah? Business executives who own companies in Mexico, because of the circumstances that are occurring down there with the cartels, et cetera, are moving to Houston and San Antonio, the two primary areas. When they move into Houston, they go to the Woodlands for a couple of reasons. One is, grade schools, they move their family. They fly back during the week, once or twice, and then fly back home again. It's close to the airport. The neighborhoods they're moving into are just, spectacular. They have gated security guards and everything else. So, big shift coming up that way from Houston. We're getting a lot of benefit from it. 91%, usually runs between 89 to 91 speak Spanish in the house. 74% bilingual, 49% Spanish Dom, and 9% speak only English. So it kind of gives you a feel for it. But Nielsen comes back and says the top number is what's most important is if they speak Spanish in the household as their normal, the propensity to watch Spanish language TV. That's why you'll see in a second. Oh, okay. One more after this one.
I got so interested.
Okay, that's okay. Keep going. If someone were to say to you, what is the #1 station in the marketplace for viewers? Adults 1849, 1834, 2554, etc. Before I joined Univision 11 years ago, I would have never said a Spanish TV station because you always think they're very small. In reality, whether or not it's daytime, early fringe, early news, prime time, late news. In late news for adults 25-54, we may have 140, 150,000 people watching. Any idea? The #2 is KTRK, Channel 13. They have a great news program. They're the ones to emulate. But what do you think there?
How many would you have?
Yeah, how many would Channel 13 have at, say, 10p? And you can't answer, John, because you already know the answer. But it runs below 100,000 now. And it used to be 160, 170.
Below 100,000 people in Houston are watching the late news?
On Channel 13.
Wow.
If you get to Fox, the 9p news, it's about 25,000 adults 25-54. I'll just use that number, to the adult 25-54 instead of 25-49 or whatever. But, yes.
Does that have something to do with the fact that everybody's watching cable now? So Fox is pretty much
Cable?
the rating?
Cable has it, my impression, and John, you know, he can even answer this because he gets more involved with it from his side also. Cable has, I think, with the number of opportunities for me, okay, to watch, you know, I mean, I'm an HDTV on this one, on that one, okay? It affects, I think it affects the English language market more than it affects the Spanish language market.
So would you say like a more realistic number would be like if you skewed or like if you like took a median between like what was happening before 2008 compared to what's happening now, just to kind of see more realistically about which one of those actual real customers as opposed to looking at if they're actually watching the news or not?
You're speaking for yourself now.
I was trying to see like, because I mean, I know like Channel 13 was something that like we watched, like I watched when I was younger. I didn't watch it, but it was on in the house when I was younger. Right. But nowadays, I mean, if I turn my TV on, it's in channel 3 something or 4 something now, and I don't even pay attention to channel 13.
Yeah,
any of the local.
Gotcha.
I think your point is valid. I think there's just so many more outlets for people to tune into. I think that's what it is.
I'm saying, Dr. Bill?
But to your point, I think that the impact of the Hispanic marketplace, has been relatively sheltered in that most of that expansion has happened
on
through
English side.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're right on the button on that one. The thing, you know, one of the key advertisers in this marketplace, the Ford dealer group, you go and see the trucks they advertise and everything. Until 2008, they used to buy 30-second commercials. And in 2009, they went to 15-second commercials on English language because in order to get the same frequency, and when you're losing half your audience, they went to a 15-second spot. It works. A 15-second spot works, you know, as well as a 30 at times.
So to bring it back into like merchandising and like retail and stuff, as a retailer, if you want to appeal to the Spanish market, then you go with more of a local channel, as opposed to if you want to appeal to the English market, you'll want to look at more of a national channel or national network. If you're looking to like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, Univision is national. I mean, if you're
selling case or contact sauce, then you would go to like a national brand as opposed to be selling that Spanish.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the way you buy media, and you don't have to buy it on a national level. There's a tipping point once you get to a large enough organization where you want to hit as many DMAs. Right. Does anyone know what a DMA is? It's a designated market area. So it's basically Houston's a DMA, right? I think you've used that language since we've been here. Dallas is a DMA. Houston's like the 4th largest DMA in the country.
It's the 4th largest Hispanic and 10th largest overall.
Is it 10th overall?
Yeah.
So these different DMAs, whether you're talking about Univision or you're talking about NBC, CBS, ABC, you can actually buy broadcasts. So if you wanted to buy a spot in the X Factor, you could buy it in the Houston marketplace only, or you could buy it across the entire country. Right. Once you hit, I think it's about 40% of the markets, that's when it's more economically viable for you to buy the entire country.
Right.
That's because the major DMAs are the most expensive ones, and everything else after that, it's just more affordable to do it that way.
It's like there's a lot of packages marketers out there that will go in and buy cable TV across the country, like a network buy, because the efficiencies to buy it is crazy. I mean, it's you know, there's still a huge, there's something like $200 million being spent in Houston every year on cable, which to me is, that's an enormous number.
It's a targeted market, though. You can target the market so much more.
Okay, let's see. Spanish language reach, you know, this is just a lot of corporate stuff, but some of the basically, when you talk about kind of trying to reach a particular audience, it's what TV stations do is they have different segments, different programs, or whatever during the day. In our news, we have, for example, all these different things that are sponsorable as well as targeting. Say, if today's crime, it could be Jim Adler. Great place for him, good content for him to advertise his commercials. you know, because he's a lawyer. So you can go down, you know, money, bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, etc. So TV stations basically have different programs during the day as well as segments in news that target a particular niche. Okay. The same thing with our 6 to 8, which now is 6 to 7. These are our 5 and 10p news, different specials. Some of the specials, I mean, these are kind of like it's like if you're associated with it. For larger companies, I know Academy gets involved with a lot of our sporting events because it ties to their niche of what they're trying to target, and it fits in their brand strategy and their media strategy, so that's why they go into it. Do they go into some of the other ones? It's really, does it fit? Is it efficient? And then they'll, you know, I mean, each different thing will appeal to someone else, you know, a different brand, different market. Here's all the sports, and these are all the different properties we have. We have TV, we have radio, online, mobile, etc. But it's a fun market. I mean, I enjoy it. I miss brand management though. That was fun.
Challenging.
Gracias.
Challenging with fun.
What's that?
Challenging with fun.
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, you're talking about some of the things. It's like, man, it's like brings back some memories.
So much information. I forgot to push the buttons.
Oh, I have copies for everyone if they like it.
Copies of the presentation. All right, questions. Really? You talked about everything you've ever wanted to know? Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ask it loud with enthusiasm.
Sorry. I had a question for Mr. Honeywell.
Yes.
So when you have Academy is like I said, it's a family market.
Yep.
Not so much the individual, younger single person, maybe like a college student or something like that.
Sure.
So with your marketing strategy, do you ever try to, you know, do you just kind of say like, no, that's not our market, we don't target them, or as the overlap happens, do you target them but not as much, or do you look for opportunities to seek us?
We'll definitely look for opportunities to partner with students, and we do it probably, we depending on the demographic, as we're talking about, we'll do it in different ways, right? So if I were to say to you that a weekly insert on Sundays, who would it be, a 20-year-old college student or a 45-year-old mom? Who's more apt to read that? Mom? Does that sound good? Yeah. Right? Or if we're talking about a partnership with the, what's the name of the?
Dynamo.
How did you know that?
Because anyway.
No, a partnership with the Dynamos where we activate for a free clinic or something like that, or we try and engage in a different way. So there's definitely, we won't focus on one segment. So does anybody know what customer segmentation is? Okay.
My class better know.
All right. So does anybody know, obviously you know what demographics are, right? Psychographics? Yeah? No? Okay. So we'll focus in on a primary demo.
So psychographics is the chapter they had to read for tonight.
Oh, so who can tell me about psychographics then? Okay. So we'll focus in on one primary demographic, but we'll also tailor that message down to a secondary demographic based on the time frame. If we're talking about Father's Day, we'll change how we communicate a little bit so that that message will be more tailored towards somebody who might be a little bit younger who might be buying a gift for dad, right? It all depends on the media type, the message that you're trying to push. Like right now, I am in the midst of partnering with Adidas on a marketing campaign for April 2012. That campaign is going to be about the launch of a Clima Cool product, which is one of their both apparel and running products that they're reinventing for 2012. So I'm working with them on something that targets 17-year-olds to 25-year-olds. So that's.
So you would like go out and like take the call. Like, do you ever do like I don't know if it would technically be called community outreach or something like that,
Yep.
where you go and.
So in that Exactly. Community outreach, digital, and we're doing a TV spot with them that'll incorporate that. So it all depends on what your primary message is, who your demographic is, and when you get to this point, everything will all be briefed in, right? So you'll know what's the single most thing you want to convey to the customer. Who is that customer? The time frame, how do you want to reach that customer? So you'll brief all that in, and then I'll work with my team and say, all right, how do we execute this? And that's essentially how it all gets kicked off and gets going.
With the economic shifts and the decline in newspaper circulation, you guys tend to be a pretty heavily or intensive direct marketing focus, and I'm not sure what percentage of your budget is applied to paper necessarily, but as you guys are shifting to more digital advertising, what percentage of your budget is going to shift over to digital?
We've already started to react to the fact that newspaper circulation is dwindling, the fact that we're now e-commerce ready. So last year at this time we had a brochure site, so we weren't using digital in the way that we are now. We're doing a lot more with paid search, doing a lot more with behavioral retargeting. Do you guys know what that is? So when somebody goes to your website, they browse, they look for a fishing rod, and then they leave and they go to ESPN. Through all how they navigate through the web, through cookies, we can actually go in, when they go to ESPN, we can serve them up an ad for fishing rods.
That explains those stupid ads that just follow me every time.
Sorry about that. That's me. So no, so we are, without getting into specifics, we are shifting for 2012 probably about 2 or 3% of our budget, our total overall budget, from print to digital next year.
Okay, good question. Yes.
For Alfred Angelo, looking at the bridal sector and then our economy as well, what is your company doing to cater to the need of low price gowns at the corporate level, but then also keeping the high customer service level at the retail level?
You know, the company's philosophy, generally speaking, is they honestly don't care about how much you're spending. It's really about relationships. And you know, what goes around comes around. You've heard that before. And the company's very focused on developing affordable product with great quality and good design at a reasonable price.
I didn't mean to interrupt. But one thing that we didn't comment on initially talking about Davidson and Alfred Angelo is both of those companies primarily do private label. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And so that's part of, I'm speaking for her, so I apologize. But that's part of the way that they control cost to the customer.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was one of the major before Alfred Angelo bought out BrideSmart and manufacturers shifting to become retailers. I mean, eliminating the middleman is so much more profitable, and going direct is really important too. It's very interesting because some of you recognize that there's kind of a Made in America movement happening with the economy the way that it is. And I reflect on that every now and then, having been overseas and recognizing the difference in the prices and stuff, because most of the gowns that are made in America, and there are lots that are made in America, but they're all the couture people. Vera Wang's, you know, I mean, just all of them. And it's just not an economic thing. I just wish. I have to tell you, I went into Academy, and they had this whole display. I think it was around the 4th of July or maybe Labor Day or something. And it was all made in America things. And I know they do a lot of importing, and all the manufacturers do, but I thought it was being sensitive to what's happening, you know, and I would think that it would be something that a lot of manufacturers or a lot of retailers need to jump on if they can, for a number of reasons. And I don't mean that to be political, but there really is. There's a really sense of pride and a desire for people to try to buy American if they can. I think there's a major movement in the universities, actually. There's a big news blitz on, I want to say it's ABC, where they did research on the universities, and there are some people in the United States that make, you know, your logo T-shirts and all your products that you buy in the bookstore and stuff with your, and some of the universities use the Made in America places and some don't, and so there was a major movement going out to try to connect with the people who make in America for the American universities and stuff, you know, so it's a global economy anymore. So anything that anybody does in ready-to-wear, you all will find, for really global economies, a lot of movement toward Asian models because they use the internet to purchase and buy. And where's the biggest emerging market, or who's the biggest emerging market? So they're going to be using Asian models to, you know, hopefully get lots of e-commerce out of China and every place else, because I mean that's the emerging market. So there's so much of what is happening, and it's so important for everybody to be aware and on top of trends and recognize things that are developing so that you can tap into them, you know.
That was an extensive question.
But
you didn't know that, did you? That it was going to be. Okay, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I know like Houston holds several years for the bridal shows in Houston like Convention Center.
Right.
Does it help you to build more like strong image for your company, or you have more strong like competitors, you know, in that show?
It's interesting. As a tip my hat to Houston, actually the Houston Bridal Extravaganza is the biggest bridal extravaganza in the entire nation. A lot of people fly in here from all over the country to see it. It's a huge deal, and it's very important to be a part of it. It's very important to be a part of it, and I think it's very beneficial to the consumer too, because they get to see a lot in a small period of time. So it's very important.
A huge display at that. Yeah. Now, you guys have like the second largest next to Ethan Allen. Like you guys have a huge display.
It's an investment in future. So.
Other questions? I know it's been a full night tonight. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, since your e-commerce site has been up, if it met the company's expectations and how much sales have grown.
Right now, our e-commerce site is still growing, right? Because the one thing they have to do is get people used to the fact that you can buy on it now. Mm-hmm. So that's where my role comes in, to make sure that people know about it. So what we did to establish that was we did a whole campaign that was online, TV campaign with Danica Patrick. We did pretty much everything. We did on our inserts with a whole buy now message, which is now out of campaign, and we've transitioned over to shop 24-7 at academy.com. So we started off having a small issue with our business model and the logarithms and how we calculated the shipping charges that go along with it, but we rectified it, and since right now it's trending at about 2 to 3 times what a normal store would for us, and that's on plan for us. So yeah, we're happy. Yeah.
Do you have links to Amazon.com?
Do we have links to them?
Well, for example, like Amazon.com, if you go on there, they'll actually they'll have sublinks to directly into other people's websites that aren't, so you'll buy from that on the website, not even buying from Amazon.com. Mm-hmm. Do you have that kind of?
No, that's kind of like, I think that's kind of like the HEB philosophy. Like if you're going to HEB, they show the price at Kroger's also, which I think is a fantastic marketing ploy. And I would love to be able to do that at Academy to show what, Sports Authority has the pricing for. I think it would be amazing for us. I don't think it's something we'll ever do, but no. So short answer is no. Right now we're trying to get a couple of things really nailed for the website, and that's stability. Since it's been up June 1st, I think is when we launched it. We've been down 1 day, and when I tell you it's an arduous task to launch a multi-million-dollar e-commerce platform, it's incredible.
That's a huge understatement.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a central warehouse for shipping?
Yeah, we actually opened up a whole warehouse in Twiggs County, which is outside of Atlanta, Georgia, which is handling distribution for us, and we estimate by within the next couple of years we'll have to open up a 3rd distribution center in something that's more central.
Wow.
Other questions? Other questions? Yes.
For Austin Angelo, you said that it's a personal connection you're wanting to make with the consumer, or customer. So, do you ever see the Alfred Angelo or the bridal industry in general switching to e-commerce?
Well, you most definitely can purchase on the websites. All of the retail bridal websites will allow you to purchase from them. There are lots of people who have been burned by that, and there's been lots of, to piggyback onto your question, a lot of sites have arisen with price being the driving message too. And what you find is when you order from those, you get an altered dress that didn't fit somebody that they didn't like, and they advertise it as something else, and now you own it. I mean, that's yours. So it's been out there for at least 10 years that you could buy on the website, and it initially had some legs, but it's such a personal thing. And if you get burnt, you're going to get burnt for a lot of money. And so it hasn't really evolved as much as some other products could that are a little less risky.
And even when they order from you, they can't get a refund at any time, can they?
Well, it depends on who you know. No, generally speaking, not. But the beauty of Alfred Angelo and some of the other is that there is every size in the store, and every gown they make from 0 to 30 W. So if you're a larger woman and you want to look like this other person, a size 6, you can. They allow you to do that. They don't prejudge what you should be in. So many other bridal companies say, this is our large size section, and here are the 5 dresses that you can pick from, as opposed to, big people want to be fashionable too. Just because you're big doesn't mean you can't be fashionable, So I think it's kudos to them that they allow anything that they make to be cut in their spec for, and just FYI, their specs that they use for large size are overseas where they're developing all these, they are gods over there because they think that their sizing is the best of anybody's. So.
Okay, one last question. One last question.
For Mr. Rio.
Yes.
Okay.
You spoke of the comparison between English and Spanish news, and how Spanish was #1 in certain spots, and actually the majority of the spots. How has the news being taken online, how has that kind of affected both English and Spanish news?
Interesting. I'm trying to address it from the English language of their decline. That may have been precipitated by, basically handheld devices to be able to get news, especially younger children. Younger kids and, teenagers and 20-year-olds and stuff. I don't know if I have a real good answer on that one, because we, from a research viewpoint, we get so much research. That is one thing I have not seen. I don't know. John?
Well, I would say that the percentage of people that have adopted Spanish television is probably much higher than online at this point.
Right.
That's purely gut, no science. Okay. But I think that as more content becomes developed, like you can't go to academy.com and view it in Spanish. But as more and more retailers start to develop that, you look at a retailer like Best Buy, which is a leader in technology and innovation. About 2 years ago, they actually launched Best Buy in Espanol. So as more and more content comes out there, I think you'll see the adoption rate kind of level out. I think right now it's probably more with TV.
Yeah, what you'll see with from basically either online or mobile aspects to the Hispanic consumer, tremendous basically video streaming, novella streaming, music streaming. Basically, there's a lot of that aspect to it. And time spent listening and stuff is like crazy. It's out of the world. Or time spent viewing. But the news is, I haven't seen any. I'll find out on that answer.
Another comment you made was in their 20s, or kind of the younger crowd is who's going online, and you mentioned the 25 to, I believe you said 54 age.
Correct.
Is what was measured for this statistic. Mm-hmm. So is it any different in that younger crowd? Is that more online than watching TV? Maybe they'll watch more cable television or the MTV, and the older people are watching news on television and the younger crowd is going to internet for their news or on their cell phone?
It really depends. For example, if you look at the younger demos, 1834, viewing will start hitting, and especially male viewing too, also like 9p on, okay, into late fridge and stuff like that. Female viewing, for example, for the Hispanic market follows what the English language market used to look like during the daytime because moms stay at home, kind of thing with kids, etc. So it's almost like each programming and time frame during the day, and also weekend, like for example, weekend viewing. I know ABC does all their kind of like family nights on Sunday. We do the same thing. So it's then you have generation viewing on Sabado. I don't know if anybody watched that. It's been around for 50 years or something like that, some crazy number. But that's 7 to 10 on Saturday night. So I think the younger demos, they'll get their information. Hispanics don't use print that often as a general across the board, okay? It's one of the mediums they don't use because historically, if you look at newspapers in the Hispanic market, it may be a weekly, but it was never a daily. And even though there's LDA and stuff like that, it's never was part of the what they were brought up with. But I think it's each demographic and each cell has a particular time frame, program, whatever they watch. Sports, for example, you get like males and youngs, you got to go sports, and you got to go solo boxeo, football, whatever kind of thing.
Wow, I don't know about you, but we could go on. There's so many other topics I'd like to talk about, and I'm so proud. You guys have been so attentive. You're awake, connected. So I would like to thank Mr. Rio, Ms. Landis, and Mr. Honeywell for joining us this evening. Thank